Most players think the reason they're not producing is that they don't want it enough. So they pile on more pressure each game to score, get more ice time, and perform better than anyone else on the team. But that specific type of pressure is exactly why so many skilled AAA prep and junior players freeze up, panic, and lose access to the skill that they worked so hard to build the second that pressure and spotlight is on them. The harder you chase the result, the more you worry about the big picture, and the more tiny steps that actually get you there start to fade away. When you are so locked into the finish line, the stats, the ranking on your team, you aren't obsessing over the tiny details, the little improvements that actually help you develop. Here's what took me 7 years to learn, and I'll give it to you in about 10 or 11 minutes. That player who jokes around, barely warms up, doesn't put in as much effort as you, but gets better results, he isn't more talented. His mind is free to see the opportunities all around him while you're focused on things you cannot control. McDavid in practice isn't obsessing about how badly he wants to win the cup. He's thinking about winning the next rep he's in. You shouldn't be worried about what the coach said to you or what someone else on your team says. Fear, panic, and stress, it all comes from being attached to the outcome, but the best players are relentless about the process and detached from the result. In this video, I'm going to break down why being obsessed with the result is quietly destroying your game, why it makes you freeze when it counts, and the exact shift the best players make to play calm, certain, and free. A lot of players get into a situation like this. A bunch of open space, and they get so excited but also nervous that they rip the puck right away. Or they force a pass or shot because in their mind a scoring chance feels rare, and because it feels rare, they panic to cash in on it immediately. If a player rushes their chances, that is a good sign of someone who is heavily focused on their stats or the outcome of that opportunity. Celebrini is flexible enough, calm enough to realize he is in a great situation, but he can make it better by stepping in. Look at the vision from Crosby. This pass could have easily been an immediate shot. Nobody would have blamed him if he ripped it here. But instead, Crosby sees the lane to the side of him, he throws the fake, and sets up the awesome goal. Actually, ask yourself for a second. Do you focus on exploiting the situation you are in, or are you reading the entire situation at all times? Are you guided by strategic opportunities or by the emotions of that situation? Now, be honest with yourself for a second. How many times have you ever done what Celebrini does here? Taken a defender on one-on-one with back-to-back moves. Have you ever made a move, then doubled down on it, making that defender into an even more exposed, weak position? Or do you instantly use the step you have, no matter the quality, right when you get it? Have you ever felt confident enough to throw multiple fakes at the top of the zone like this in an actual game? For most players, the answer is almost never. And it's not really a skill problem because you can do these moves in the driveway, on empty ice, or in practice. The reason you don't make plays like this is that you feel so much pressure to produce. You're so focused on the result that the ice shrinks for you and everything in your mind speeds up. That doesn't happen to the best players. Celebrini and Crosby don't step on the ice thinking, I need a point tonight or my stats are ruined. They step on the ice thinking, where's the nearest weakest defender that I can exploit? They're on a battlefield looking for the next advantage, not on the sideline worrying about the stakes of the war. If you actually watch top players, they make a ton of mistakes. They turn pucks over constantly. But because they're always focused on finding and creating the next advantage, instead of worrying about stats or beating themselves up about a mistake, it's not life or death if they mess up because they know the next chance will happen. Imagine how free you'd play if you knew your next shift you'd have a great scoring chance you can try again on. Instead, you're playing like any chance you get is the only opportunity to get a point per game, so you better make it count. That is so much pressure to deal with. And this all traces back to how you practice. Everything in practice is neat, organized, expected to be at full speed. But real hockey is about slowing down, speeding up, creating mismatches, and you never rep any of that in practice. So when you get in a game, you're trained to accelerate at full speed in a straight line, but to really capitalize on offensive situations, you have to change speed constantly. Going full speed by default all the time is a fear response. Shooting or passing right away and never seeing any other options feels safe, but it's because of a lack of reading the situation. So that's the trap. And if you're in it, it's not because you don't work hard enough. It's because everything about how you were coached pointed you in a clear result instead of reading an opponent. But once you flip that, the game changes completely and it starts to feel almost effortless and exciting. Let me show you what that actually feels like. When you stop playing for results, something truly amazing happens. You start to see the ice in a completely different level of detail. It's like looking at your hand when it's stretched out all the way. You only see the rough shape and a couple of lines, but bring it close right up to your face and suddenly you see every crease, every detail. That's what happens to your game when you're present. The opponents, the space, the little things all come into focus because your mind is finally quiet enough to see them. And the game genuinely slows down. It feels like you're doing something for the first time and you'll almost surprise yourself about how good your decisions are. Afterward, you won't remember every detail. You'll just think, wow, I actually did that. That's what being in the moment feels like. It flies by because you're not standing outside yourself judging every play as it happens. Compare that to how you play when you're in fear. When you're scared, your head is loud and judgmental the whole time. That was a good play, that was a bad one. You're hoping the puck comes to you. You're frustrated when your teammate doesn't pass it, and you're wondering what your coach thought of that last shift. That constant noise is exactly what blocks you from seeing the ice fully, because you're watching yourself perform from the stands instead of actually playing in the moment. Here's a tell you can actually watch for. Sometimes players get mic'd up in practice. A lot of them ham it up, joking, yelling, oh, what a play, what a miss. That's fun, and I get it. And there's nothing wrong with it, but it's a judgmental state. Watching yourself from the outside, you're self-conscious. Watch the truly elite players practice when they're locked in and they're quiet. If you talk to them, they wouldn't say much, maybe a word about strategy, or maybe they call for the puck, because they are in the moment. Not replaying, not narrating, they are just there in the moment. And you even see it when they score. A lot of the best players are almost casual about a goal, or their celebration is pure passion in the moment, not some pre-planned routine. That's the difference between an internal and external monologue. They're living the play, not performing it for an audience in their own head. Now, let's connect these mental tactics to actual point production. As you start to detach from the outcome, you stop focusing on skills where they don't belong. Think about your own game for a second. How many times have you forced a shot because you really wanted to score? Then immediately after, you felt that guilt feeling because you had someone wide open that you realize now. Then because you didn't score, you start replaying that mistake and the judgment of your mistake creeps in. Forcing a chance that isn't there is a sign of a player who's trying to get a specific pre-planned outcome more than he's reading the situation. But when that pressure is gone, you see the situation for what it actually is. Watch how the best players turn down a decent chance, curl back, and build something better, because they aren't afraid of losing their one shot. That's how they get the second and third options you never knew were there. And once it starts, it's the cycle that compounds. When you're detached, you stop rushing past defenders and you start controlling them with deception, freezing them, manipulating them, and then you win more of your one-on-ones. Every good result makes you trust it more, and the more you trust it, the freer you play. Imagine stepping onto the ice, knowing you didn't have to force anything, that chances would come to you and they'd be easy. That feeling is addictive, and once you felt it, you want it back every single shift you're on the ice. You can't just flip this on and live in it forever. Even the best players drift out and start judging themselves again. So the real skill isn't staying perfectly calmer in the moment. It's catching yourself the moment you slip back into worrying about the result and pulling yourself back into the moment where it matters. And there's a specific practical way to do that exactly. A first step that snaps you out of a result focused almost instantly. That's what I want to show you next. A huge mistake that I made that I don't want you to make is thinking that workouts and skill sessions alone are going to get you a point per game this season. Trying to make high-level juniors so D1 colleges would look at me was my goal, but I was missing pieces to my development. Click the link in the description for the breakdown on what I wish I knew about hockey development sooner. So how do you actually get into this state on the ice in a real game at full speed? It starts with generic advice that never does anything to help players. When your coach yells, pick your head up or move the puck, what actually happens is you panic and pass it to the nearest option, almost always north, and you get rid of it with a dump. And that's not always a bad play, but think about what it costs you. When you're only looking to move the puck up, you're never hunting for the weak defender that you could actually expose and create something better. You never take anyone on one-on-one, and you never create separation. You just transfer the puck around the pressure instead of actually creating separation. And that's the whole difference between average offensive players and elite ones. Are you creating separation from coverage, which is what elite players do, or are you just maneuvering around it to minimize risk? Because the best offensive players in the world aren't avoiding pressure, they're beating a defender and pulling away from it. This can be done with a pass, delay, or even a one-on-one move. Here is a specific fix that I teach all my clients, and it's the opposite of what you've been told. Instead of picking your head up to read the entire ice, shrink your focus down to one defender and the defender who's closest to you, and ask yourself one question. What direction can I skate? What move can I make to turn this defender into a vulnerable one? That's it. That single question is how you create separation, and it's how you become a real offensive threat. There's a hidden reason scanning the whole ice actually works against you. Scanning takes time, and when you're doing that, the defenders see what you're looking at and start adjusting to it. Your eyes are like a magnet. Wherever you look, you drag coverage towards it. So unless something is wide open, which is rare, you're literally pulling defenders into the exact spaces you wanted to use. But when you shrink your focus to that nearest defender, you stop feeding them information and you start reading theirs, where their weight is, where their stick is, which way you can move him to make him vulnerable. I know it sounds backwards, but hear me out. Shrinking your focus is what opens up the entire ice. Because the second you beat that first defender and control him, every other option gets better and easier to access. Winning the little battle in front of you is what creates space. Instead of scanning around hoping to find an obvious option that usually isn't even there. Sometimes it exists. Most of the time it doesn't, and you have to create it by controlling that first opponent. When you use this strategy, you get a boost in efficiency. When you commit to attacking one defender in one area, you already know the opposite area is open without ever having to look at it. You can control them. You can keep him there, and you know exactly where the ice is going to open up without directly scanning for it. That lets your brain do two things at once, so you can pour all your mental energy into that one defender instead of frantically processing the whole sheet. That's when the game slows down. Your mind gets calm, and you stop rushing every decision. So this is the practical first step, the thing you can try on your very next shift. Stop trying to see everything and start winning the one battle in front of you. But next, I'm going to show you proof of why this strategy will help you dominate. These strategies are literally backed up by neuroscience. It's not just random bits of advice. I will actually explain to you how a major part of the flow state works. And I'm not an expert in this, but I have done a lot of research and seen its practical impact in the clients that I've worked with. When you're in a flow state, a part of your brain called the prefrontal cortex quiets down, and that's the part responsible for overthinking, self-doubt, and judging every single thing you do. Neuroscience actually have a name for it, transient hypofrontality, and it's the same thing that happens to elite athletes when they're locked in. That self-critical voice goes quiet. That voice in your head that judges what you just did, what you're doing, and thinks about what will happen if you mess up. Turning this down is exactly why the best players look so calm and certain out there. It's not always that they don't have an inner critic. It's that in those moments, it's turned down. Now here is the best part that ties this whole video together. Your skill and all those hours of stick handling and shooting runs on the automatic instinctive part of your brain, not the thinking part. So what do you think happens the moment you try to scan the entire ice consciously and evaluate every option? You flip that overthinking part of your brain back on, and it overrides the instincts that make you good in the first place. That's the signal you look for if you're feeling mentally slow and cluttered out there, even though you're physically fast or skilled. It's because your conscious brain is jammed up in the middle of a job it was never meant to do, in high pressure situations. You're trying to be conscious instead of instinctual. That's why making fewer decisions actually makes you faster. Every decision you force through that slow, conscious part of your brain is a delay. So when you shrink your focus down to just one defender in front of you, you're letting your instincts do what they've been trained thousands of hours to do. You think faster because you're thinking less things. You play faster because you're not routing every read through the part of your brain that second guesses and judges you. And this is the whole thing. Getting past one defender, then getting closed off, then panicking, that's the loop of a player trying to consciously solve the entire ice at once. Imagine how different it feels to win one small battle, let the next option reveal itself, win that one, and just flow from there. One battle at a time, step by step. So now you know what it feels like, why it works, and the exact shift that gets you there. The only question left is how you actually build this into your game so it holds up under real pressure. And nobody is teaching this, but it's exactly what we do inside my personalized program. Let me give you a quick sneak peek.
Before it was nervousness, but now I hop on the ice and I think this is my time. Like I'm here to play. I'm here to have fun.
Knowing when to like attack the defenders, how to take advantage of like 2-on-1s, being more deceptive overall. One of the games I had like 3 goals, 1 assist. When I use everything, it like works out.
So here's the takeaway. You were never broken, and you don't need to want it more. Stop chasing the result and win the small battle in front of you, because that's what's actually creating the points you've been chasing all along. If you're tired of feeling your skill trapped in games and want to finally take action to make an impact, click the link in the description to book a call with my team, and we'll figure out whether we can help you become the player you already have the skill to be. My name is Xander, this is Kachisaki, and I'll see you guys in the next one.